Welcome, welcome everyone.
Hey
Today
there.
we are going to talk about abuse and exploitation of people with developmental disabilities. And again, we'll always put our references down in the bottom. So be looking for those. Two of them are Disability Justice and Special Needs Alliance.
And the third is the Commission for Children and Young People from Melbourne, Australia. Very helpful information.
This is a very important topic to me since I have a son with Down syndrome. And kids with Down syndrome can be a little stubborn at times. Not all of them, that's. But it is a general term that people describe people with disabilities or Down syndrome. One, because people with Down syndrome don't mature at their biological age. So they sometimes have younger behaviors. You know, they may be 10, but still being stubborn like a 2-year-old. So you know, some people, you have to take them at their developmental age. So and it's an important topic to me because I'll use the word allegedly. My son was assaulted by somebody in his care when he was younger, and you know, you need to be aware of these things. I always inspect my child with disabilities all the time because he doesn't have the speech like his brother does. So I always, like when he's taking a bath, he still needs my assistance. So I'm always looking to make sure he doesn't have marks on his body that don't fall in line with a normal fall off of a swing or trip up a stairs or something like that. So things that are out of the ordinary, that where you normally wouldn't get a cut or a bruise on your body. So that's very important to me. And you know, when you look at the statistics of people with disabilities, it's staggering. You know, abuse and exploitation are constant dangers for people with developmental disabilities. They are 4 to 10 times more likely to be abused than their peers without disabilities. That's just crazy.
It is. And one of the things that I was just talking to Sherry about is sometimes it's the conditions of where they are. They might be in a placement or in a classroom where there just isn't an adequate adult to child or typical or helper to person ratio. And not that this is an excuse by any stretch of the imagination, but this is something to look for when your child with a disability is going into a placement. Is there adequate staffing? Is there somebody that's going to be there to help them? And how do they handle it when people are uncooperative? Because a lot of time people with developmental disabilities, they don't understand what you're asking. They don't want to do what you're asking them to do, or they're just being stubborn. They just don't want to. And there's so many ways to handle that other than putting your hands on them.
Right. And one is with humor.
Oh, absolutely. And the other is asking them what they want.
Right.
Like, what do you want? What do you really want to do? If you do this thing first, then you can do that thing you really want to do.
Right.
And keep that communication open and
Right.
find a way to entice them to do it. I mean, we all work for a paycheck. So I got a little frustrated with people who say, I know, and you just said that, I don't give my child tokens. Well, everybody gets tokens. Mm-hmm. Everybody gets something when they do a good job or when they do the things that they're supposed to do, like go to work.
Right.
You know,
like my son never, when my kids were younger, I would just ask them to do stuff. I never gave them, like, for going to the bathroom, any type of thing. So both my kids, my typical son and my child with developmental disabilities, just do things because that's what you need to do. So when my child with disabilities enters school and there's this token-based reward system, he doesn't respond to that.
It's probably because there's nothing on the reward chart that he wants.
Right. I would give him praise and my love and affection.
And those things go a really long way.
Actually, the school social worker was shocked that my kids don't respond to those tokens, and she was quite impressed by that, I guess.
There's a lot of people who don't, or they might respond to something like free time,
right,
or time to spend with their interests. They like to draw. Okay, well, you do your math and then you can draw for 20 minutes.
Mhm.
It's really simple. But
Yeah, one-
I think we're
Yes.
diverging from the topic.
Yes,
Whoops.
absolutely.
We call this a bird walk. We're
Yes.
just going to take a little bird walk.
Another staggering statistic, the United States Department of Health and Human Services, 11% of all child abuse victims, and this is from 2009, had physical, cognitive, and or behavioral disabilities, and children with disabilities are almost 2 times more likely to be physically or sexually abused and neglected than children without disabilities.
Yikes, that's a staggering statistic, and it's upsetting. Again, the importance of investigating and checking out the place where your child is, whether it's a day program or a special school or a summer camp or something like that. Check it out. Make sure they have adequate staffing. Ask them how they handle an uncooperative member of their class or community. And the other thing that's super, super, super important, and this was part of the article from the Commission for Children and Young People, is talk to your children, teach them about boundaries, teach them what's acceptable and not acceptable. And it's my intuition that a lot of times children with developmental disabilities are more likely to be abused because they are trusting and they haven't been explicitly taught to respect their bodies and to have an expectation of how they should be treated, especially a child who's nonverbal. So like Sherry said, check your child often. If they don't have the communication skills to tell you what's happened, make sure that you are in constant contact with their facility wherever they are, if they're at school, camp, or whatever.
And another thing, as parents or a caregiver, when you're bathing your child, you can also tell them, mommy and daddy or whoever the safe adult is in their life helps you with this, and other people don't touch you there. Those are other ways to incorporate, and knowing that it's not safe for other people to touch them in that way. And even my oldest son, in play with his brother, I've also told him to be more deliberate in how he plays with them, so his brother will understand, that certain actions are not appropriate from other people, even starting with his own brother, just so he can understand that in a more natural, easier way, is how I've incorporated it. I'm no therapist or anything, but just as a parent and thinking outside the box, making it easier for him to understand those things.
Exactly, and there are curriculums out there that you can follow. One of them is called Circle of Friends, and it really and it teaches children who are the people that you touch and allow to touch you. Like there's the people in your inner circle, that's your immediate family, your siblings, and really, really close friends. Those are the people who can hug you and the people that you will hug. One of the things that I've worked on with kids with disabilities many times, and many kids with various disabilities, from autism spectrum disorders to Down syndrome to attention deficit disorder, is they might be craving a physical input, so they'll hug a stranger. That's not safe. So one of the things that the Circles of Security teaches people is how to greet strangers and who's a stranger, and it helps you work with the child to make a list of the people that can touch them and that they can touch. We'll try to find a link and put it in the comments for you, because it's a really helpful, it's a great conversation tool to have with your kid, just to talk about the people that are around them, and that you might elicit a conversation and find some gaps in their understanding, because for kids with developmental disabilities, these skills need to be explicitly taught. It's not something you pick up intrinsically.
Right. It's very important to have those conversations with your child, and especially children who can't talk. And however, they can signal to you that somebody's doing something inappropriate to them, whether at school or home or at an afternoon program, whatever the circumstances might be, so you can help them, because that makes people more at risk if they have a communications disorder of being abused, because they don't have the verbal ability to tell people.
Right. So the things you're going to be watching for is a resistance to going to this place. A sudden onset illness is usually a stomach ache or unusual tantruming, or regression in skills, especially like toileting skills. You may find them like wetting the bed, wetting their pants, that they hadn't done in a long time. Those are red flags that there's some kind of anxiety for them, and that's when it's time to start investigating. It could be something minor. It doesn't always have to be something critical, but those are signs that you're a nonverbal child or you're a child with a communication disability might be trying to tell you that they're uncomfortable in their placement.
And if they can answer yes/no questions, like sometimes if I suspect maybe something's going on or my son's off, I will ask him a series of yes/no questions so I can get a feel for what's going on. Since he can't verbalize that, he does sign, but he's not always able to sign those type of things because those are kind of,
it's not his everyday vocabulary.
yeah, those aren't everyday things that a kid would be talking about.
Right.
And another staggering statistic, and this is about the elderly, and it's from the National Council on Aging, estimates that 1 in 10 Americans who are 60 years or older have experienced some form of elder abuse. So this just doesn't go on with young kids with disabilities. It also goes on with our elder population, and I'm sure the statistics of the elderly who have disabilities is probably
even higher.
It's probably even higher. So let's all do our part, and
because we're all going to be old someday, hopefully.
yes, absolutely. So big tips and takeaways is keep an eye on your children with disabilities, their emotions, their moods, and check them over for any signs of things that are odd that don't make sense.
And keep lines of communication open between you, your household, and the placement where they are. Get to know the staff, get to know the teachers, get to know the helpers. That way, you're going to know when something is off.
Right. Even their behavior can be off.
Exactly. You're going to know when something's different because they might be less willing to talk to you, or somebody not having time to talk to you is not a red flag, but they might be less willing to have a lengthy discussion with you if they're feeling like things aren't right. And I know it's an unpleasant topic, but it's really, really important.
It is, to keep our children safe, to keep our seniors safe. It's very important to do that. I am Sherry. I'm a mother of a child with Down syndrome, and this is...
I'm Roberta Curry, and I am a special education teacher. It was really nice spending time with you and passing on this important information. If there is something that you have questions about or that you would like to hear us talk about, please drop a comment below, and we would love to do a little bit of research and present you with some information because we're here for you.
Absolutely, and we want to bring this information to everybody and educate parents, educators, and the general population about people with disabilities, so we can bridge that gap.
So until next time.
Yes.
Thank you.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you like our content on either side.